the time you get seats at March Madness because you bought Air Force Ones, and those are like, you know, basketball shoes. You guys, you heard it here third. It's happening. This is how retail is going to look like. It is, the incentives are too good, because what you're doing is you're aligning incentives, not necessarily with your company like you would do with stock, but with your brand, such that if I give somebody a loyalty point on American Airlines, I don't talk about my status on American Airlines, like, that's tacky, right? But if I own 10,000 Nike coins, and I make money if those Nike coins go up in price, not only am I going to talk about how great Nike is, I'm going to talk about how nobody wears Reeboks anymore, nobody wears Adidas anymore. Let's stop. What's cool with Nike is Nike. So it's one vision for the future. It's how tokens might work. What are the legal issues involved? So many, and now I've spoken for 5 minutes, so you're going to have to call me out to find out.
Plus, I'm willing to bet you're like global services or something, and you're just not saying it. I don't know what American United is, so that's a shame. So let's switch this up a little bit. So from an adoption point of view, we obviously heard of all these things. There's a bunch of open source projects. Hyperledger is obviously the biggest of the Hyperledger is growing more and more. Around that, there's a lot of consortia, enterprise Ethereum, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of interest in this. My background is in open source. I'm a big believer. I work for the Linux Foundation and everything else. So I'm a supporter. How do you think the people in the audience here should think about this? And I'll start with you, Doctor, since you are open source. You're a big open source platform of the health. What's the rationale to use an open source underlying technology versus, say, whatever IBM comes up with?
Well, there is so much great open source technology out there that if you put all of these resources in building everything from scratch, you're going to waste a lot of time and maybe not get a product as good as an open source product. And once a product is open source, there are many developers who are using it who also improve it. So I can't see that.
That's a general open source, everything is awesome. But what from the healthcare point of view, do you think there's any specific benefits that is adding value to the healthcare industry?
I would say so. I'm not really sure if I'm maybe the best person to answer.
So I'll talk about it a little bit. I mean, the reason why Bitcoin and Ethereum and all of this other blockchain stuff is open source, it's not because there's an open source movement that started with Linux and all of that, right? The reason why this stuff is open source is because it's cryptography, right? The reason why cryptography needs to be open source is that things that are open source that have hundreds and thousands of researchers smashing against it is safer than if you keep something private that somebody else poked a hole and don't tell anybody else, right? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of security experts here. That's the reason why Bitcoin is open source, so that people can understand exactly how that code works and why you should trust the code. And it, again, comes back to the whole trust mechanism, right? You have to trust it. If you don't trust it and you don't know how it's made, then how are you going to trust it? It's the same thing. Hyperledger tries to do the same thing. R3 are a little bit different, right, because it's a bank consortium. But my whole thing about this open source community is that they're not quite hitting the target that they're going after. So Hyperledger and R3 at State Street, we actually helped start these organizations, right? So we talked with IBM a long time ago in their research lab looking at everything they do. But one of the difficulties of all of this stuff is that, remember I said earlier, blockchain is not just one thing, right? If I want to use the consensus protocol, and the consensus protocol is the technology that makes the decentralized trust model work, right? Like Bitcoin, for example, uses a consensus protocol called proof of work. Ethereum also uses proof of work and something like proof of stake, and everybody has different ones. These things are not plug and play. So the idea of the open source is that they allow people to plug in different versions of this, but in the industry today, we haven't quite got there yet. So I think a lot of people like Hyperledger, as Dave said, is the largest essentially consortium out there, right? Because they're not banking specific. And the idea of it is to actually find the critical mass of people together that want to build a network. Because ultimately, you need some kind of network effect for this trust model to exist. And that goes back to the public-private thing again, right? If you're just looking at something private, you can do whatever you want. You trust your own code, you can off you go. And people want to have this consortium, and the idea is that a lot of people will come in, look at the code, they all trust the code, and they all decide to run something together. But the problem is that we just haven't found the perfect use case where everybody says, you know what, I bought into this technology and this business model, we're all gonna jump into it.
Yeah, so that's a perfect point for pause. Any questions? We're at like the 10-minute mark. Anybody? Go with the man, the green shirt first.
So I guess to that point, like TCP/IP, like the web was like the killer app. Like we had eight like experiments or POCs going on with blockchain and things like with every consortium, every Ripple, Hyperledger, blah blah blah. So like use cases are great, but what do you think about like the network? Like I think the network effect is one of the biggest things I see the challenge. Like I was just curious if someone had a thought on that. Like for example, standby letter of credit space is a huge area for blockchain, like or trade finance. They've tried over the last 30 years. They've tried 3 different protocols to modernize that, and they've all failed because of the network, right? So I'm just curious, like thoughts on that.
Yeah, so a lot of people have said, look, blockchain is an internet, or blockchain is a TCP/IP protocol stack. It's not, right? Because it's just a concept, and blockchain, in the Bitcoin case, is just one version of that. TCP/IP, you can somehow say these different versions of blockchain perhaps is one communication protocol. One is multicast, one is directed TCP, and whatever it is. But every one of these that are working now, like Bitcoin, for example, is 0% compatible with Ethereum. Right. Some of the Ethereum stuff, like the ERC20 tokens that Marco was talking about, they are somewhat compatible, used on the same network. But Ripple is very different from this other stuff. R3 won't work with anybody else. So right now it's more of, we're so early. I was writing some stuff before about blockchain is more like the internet of the 70s, right? We're just trying to figure out how to get it going. And somebody's ultimately gonna win. And that winner could take a big chunk of it. But I think it's going to be different. Internet was the one single protocol that took everything, and all of this is building on top of the internet right now. I don't think we're going to end up with one single blockchain protocol. I mean, there was this concept of a Bitcoin maximalist that was talked about a number of years ago, and Andreessen Horowitz was one of the companies that said Bitcoin will win everything. And I think we all know now, Bitcoin is not going to be the only one. In fact, Bitcoin's market share has dropped substantially.
Well, the question, right, was about network effects, and one of the interesting one of the interesting emergent consequences of this is that I think we're going to skip the intranet stage. And I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I don't believe that private blockchains are valueless. I think they're important in their own right. But what we're starting to see is the world of open networks just leapfrog the world of closed networks, and the kind of advancements that are being made today in open permissionless networks are leaving the permission networks in the dust as far as use cases. There used to be a real problem with network effects, in as much as there was this weird crypto stuff over here, and then there was sort of the traditional financial system that was everything else. And the problems with the growth of the crypto stuff, the problems with network effects in particular, was that there were no real meaningful endpoints between these systems. There was no, the trouble with crypto was that it couldn't connect with the legacy financial system to solve the very problems it was trying to solve. So what we've seen is these crypto folks over here just build their own solutions. And I don't know the extent to which permission networks are going to be valuable in the future. And so to use that metaphor, I don't know the extent to which we're going to see the growth of the intranet in this space.
So we haven't yet disagreed on this. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you, Marco. Is that all right?
No.
Well, I'm going to do it anyway. I think there is going to be, just like the way the internet is not just one big public internet, right? You run your internet at home, every company runs their intranet. They're just as useful to have private intranet systems as we have a single public internet in which we share information. So everything that we're talking about right now, every ICO that we talked about are all retail oriented. So I go back to what I said originally. There's a big, huge difference between institutional and retail. Even with the Nike, if Nike happened to issue these coins, they're still public retail coins that you and I, we can go and buy. But to the gentleman's case, talking about B of A and such, right? How are we going to put a supply chain contract, or syndicated bank loan contract, or a corporate finance type contract onto the blockchain? Somebody has to do it. You have to trust that person. person to do it, right? So I don't think we're ever gonna have an entire world running.
There's an interesting point here, which is right now to do a contract like that is actually very expensive because Bitcoin is so expensive. And then suddenly you say, well, it's actually cheaper to do it on a private chain, right? You do it on Ethereum or whatever else. And there's a whole host of issues that haven't yet been sorted out. But I agree, it's a hybrid world. What's our question in the back there, sir?
Yeah, question for Marco. So I really like the way you laid out the process. I like the way you laid out the process by which retail could issue a token. Right? I spent some time in Canada. It reminded me of Canadian Tire Money, if you're familiar with that.
I'm not. What is Canadian Tire
So
Money?
Canadian Tire Money was a money-like instrument issued by this retail chain called Canadian Tire. You should really look them up because they're also one of the pioneers of big data analytics. You know, kind of trying to figure out customer behavior based on past purchases. But I got around to thinking, what's the contributor value in those tokens, right? And how much of that is tied to the point at which that token emerges from the virtual world into the real world? So what's that transaction look like where you actually exchange that token for something of value in the real world? So what's some of the fragility in that, right? How fragile is that, and how does that vary across different ICO networks where that linkage between the value in the virtual network doesn't match up to what is actually happening in the real world?
Well, so the Nike coin example I gave is actually fairly rare in the real world, right? We don't see a lot of existing companies with products, retail facing, issuing coins that redeem retail products. We don't see a lot of that yet. We see a lot of infrastructure plays catering to the crypto community. But if you're looking for, what that transaction looks like, it's like when you see citizens in Tokyo paying for their subway card. I mean, it's pulling out an app that already organizes your Nike coin, your Folgers coin, your Unilever coin, and all of the other ones, and it looking like a portfolio of assets, like it would look like investment products, with options to rebalance them algorithmically, if you like, to follow investment leaders' advice and follow other people's portfolios as you're walking through the grocery store. And then when you reach the counter, you could use a QR code or something like that to swipe in. Alternatively, you can come in and out of the crypto via exchanges that already exist today, like Bittrex, Poloniex, Shapeshift, a couple of them being our own clients. I didn't come up with this on my own, and I am but a lawyer, right? I know what I know from my clients and increasing social media. But the idea is that this is what clients are asking for. They want to know, can we do this? And the answer is actually, yeah, probably.
We have another question, otherwise we'll BofA monopolizing the.
I talked to some guys from Facebook the other day that left to they want to start an ETF for cryptocurrency, which is one of the issues right now. No one can invest in crypto via a traditional brokerage account. So I'm just curious if you guys have seen any progress on that front, because I've heard of a lot of demand for that.
Not happening.
I agree.
Not happening.
Not possible or not happening?
No
possible.
way, no how.
Possible, sure.
Well, there's already that weird trust instrument.
The Grayscale Trust has been around, and I'll give you a little bit of an insider thing. So the Winklevoss twins, with the Gemini, about a year ago, wanted to create this large-scale ETF, right? And they actually came to State Street, and we all got involved. And State Street was actually internally approved to be the fund administrator of that ETF, if that ETF ever got approved, right? And about 4 or 5 months ago, the ETF gets rejected by the SEC. There's just so much infrastructure missing to get it to work, right? ETFs, I don't know if you get it, the ETF structure, when we buy ETF, that's actually secondary market. There's a primary market like the Goldmans, the Morgan Stanleys are handling that. They cannot buy anything to the size that allow people to do this, right? If we all got into the ETF, Bitcoin would probably get bid up to, I don't know, $20,000, $50,000 per share and per coin, and there's no way to do it. I think it will happen. It'll take time. You gotta have a derivative market, so people like LedgerX, CBOE are starting to trade derivative contracts. You need a derivative market to hedge your primary cash market. Unless all of the things available, of course, OmniX has to be very successful making people trade all this stuff, then we can have the ETF.
All right, we got 10 seconds left. So what's your one-liner that everybody needs to know about?
I would just maybe take us out of a traditional talk about blockchain and think about blockchain being just another disruptive lever on how do you break the patterns in the business. I can tell you for us at Nike, we're breaking the patterns how we typically solve the problems through the process. We're breaking the patterns how we innovate to some extent. We're breaking the patterns of just how do we think about art of possible for some of that. So that's another lens maybe to put, and it's not just as much about blockchain as it is about all other technologies, because all of us are thinking about AI differently now. It's a little more real than what blockchain is, but it's actually breaking how business is thinking and what insights are, how we make decisions. So I would just challenge you to think about how can you influence the business through this type of a disruptive thing, regardless if it sticks or not. Right?
And Doctor, for you, what do you got?
Well, I think healthcare is a very entrenched market, and what we're trying to do is chip away at it and help patients get the power back so that all of the use cases I talked about can become possible.
Great. We're out of time. Barring anybody's on for something different.
Thank you.
All right. Perfect.